With so many exciting celebrity engagements popping up recently, people are digging up the celebrity relationships, new and old, that didn't pan out as everyone had hoped. Actress Elisabeth Moss described her only marriage as traumatic and once joked that her ex was impersonating a normal person. The ex in this scenario was Fred Armisen, who you might recognize from SNL or more recently, Wednesday. The man was known for being a good comedic actor and kind of a chameleon of a person, good at impressions. Their wedding was low profile and the marriage unfortunately brief. Actually, it might be fortunate that it didn't last very long because it doesn't sound like they were a good match at all. We already mentioned that Moss said the marriage was traumatic for her, but she used other synonyms too, like awful and horrible. Speaking to Page 6 after everything was over, Moss was asked if her and her ex still talked, to which she said, "Oh god no." Continuing with, "He's so great at doing impersonations, but the greatest impersonation he does is that of a normal person. To me, that sums it up." So she has made her stance on everything very clear. As for Fred, he has said that the split left him heartbroken. On the WTF with Mark Maron podcast, the actor said that he got caught up in it all. He was starstruck by his partner because it's Elisabeth Moss, star of Mad Men. It sounds like the marriage and divorce wasn't a stellar experience for either of them.
Madonna and Sean Penn. Now, the singer and actor met on a music video set and started dating in February of 1985. 6 months after they first met, they were married in Malibu, California on Madonna's 27th birthday, the day before Penn's 25th birthday. Now, their special date attracted a lot of attention. Madonna acknowledges, in a documentary audio clip that she couldn't hear the vows during the ceremony due to all of the helicopters that were buzzing overhead. This apparently angered Penn, and it was, the first time that Madonna and her friends and family had seen his evil side to him, with all this rage that was coming out of him, like fire breathing through his nose. Now, her brother said it was just alarming. Her brother, Christopher Ciccone, who would later go on to share a lot of these details in a documentary of that day, also said he saw Sean write something, derogatory in the sand for the pilots and the helicopters to read. He said Madonna was visibly upset and kept trying to calm Sean down, and stop him from doing whatever he was doing. He said, looking back, all that crazy stuff that was happening was a bad omen for the future. Just over 2 years later, in December of 1987, Madonna filed for divorce. Her rep told People magazine at the time there was no one direct incident leading up to this. It was just a series of, accumulative pressures. There were many moments in their marriage, though, when it was shaky, and Madonna was finally forced to face the reality of the situation, that they just weren't happy together. Now, in 1987, there were also allegations that Sean attacked Madonna with a baseball bat, amongst many other accusations. Later in life, when Sean was asked about the allegations in an interview with the New York Times, Sean said, "I had a SWAT team come into my house. I was eating breakfast, and the next thing I knew, windows were being broken all around the house, and they came in and they put me in handcuffs." He went on to say that if he had hit her with a baseball bat, surely she just would have gone to the hospital. So basically, he was denying it, not really saying anything much. Now, Madonna would go on record denying the attacks as well and basically having his back. Her close friends and family said, she was covering for him and didn't want to ruin his career or her own, so she took it and held it in within her own self and never spoke about the truth. To this day, she refuses to talk about it and just wants everyone to forget these allegations.
Now, it seems like Ben Affleck didn't learn his lesson when he was with Jennifer Lopez. Now, the pair were dating and got engaged in the early 2000s, but called it off. Then they rekindled their relationship and got engaged again, actually got married, and then got divorced after only 2 years of marriage. Now, Ben has seen all sides of Jen, and he's made it clear that they had very different opinions when it came to privacy and the press. Ben was taken aback when Jen shared with songwriters the private love letters he wrote to her to serve as inspiration for her upcoming album, This Is Me Now. In a preview for her forthcoming Amazon Prime documentary, The Greatest Love Story Never Told, Jen had invited musicians to their home and gave them access to Ben's love letters. Now, later on, he says, "Things that are private, I always feel are sacred and special because in part they're private." He added, "When Jen and I broke up before, while looking back at the end of their engagement in 2003, the catalyst for that was this massive amount of scrutiny around our private life." However, he suggested that the couple didn't necessarily share the same viewpoints when it came to having a romance in the public eye. "I had a very firm sense of boundaries initially around the press, while Jen I don't think objected to it in the way I did, he said, and I very much did object to it. Now when there were rumblings about the couple getting divorced, a source had this to say: if there was a way to divorce on grounds of temporary insanity, Ben would. He feels like the past 2 years were just a fever dream, and he's come to his senses now and understands there's just no way this is going to work.
Britney Spears has not had an easy experience in Hollywood, that is no secret. In fact, very little of her life past a certain point was a secret, especially not her relationships, but none were more reported on and criticized than that of her 55-hour-long marriage. Now, anyone might regret going through the trouble of getting married only to not have it count just 3.5 days later, but this particular situation was a nightmare of epic proportions. Britney had wed a longtime friend of hers, Jason Alexander. She'd known him since she was young, childhood friends to lovers, we love to see it. Only, from the start, it seems like Spears was never really into this being long-term. To start, her wedding look featured jeans and a baseball cap. To explain that fashion choice and also the marriage choice, Britney later explained that this happened after a night of partying. She was trying to be rebellious, she wasn't trying to make a serious union, at least that's what one can gather from her statement with E! News. She said she wasn't really thinking of what she was doing at the time. Britney's team were quick to get an annulment for the pop singer. This 2004 wedding has haunted Britney for pretty much her whole life since, and not even just because the public has a lot of opinions about it, but because Jason Alexander literally cannot let it go, to the point where he literally got arrested. Britney Spears has enough to deal with, she does not need this as well. Jason, to put it plainly, acted unhinged at Britney's 2022 wedding. What was supposed to be an exciting, intimate wedding at home quickly took a turn when Jason literally showed up on Britney's doorstep, going on about their marriage and telling people that he should be there because Britney was his first and only wife. After somehow gaining access to the property, he marched up to security and apparently said, "This is Jason, first husband, here to crash it." Now with big celebrity incidents like this, details are usually not this public. We often don't really know what went down. If this were a normal situation, all we would know is that a past flame just broke into Britney's home on the day of her wedding. The reason we know so much is because Jason made another bold choice: he live streamed his activities. It's pretty clear that this man really just wanted attention, and probably not Britney. He might be waxing poetic about how she's the only wife he'll ever have, but I don't know. If you really wanted her and not attention, why livestream your exact activities and location and then announce that you want to crash the wedding? Yeah, Jason was arrested after a little scuffle with security, and that's also about when the live stream ended. TMZ reported that the police did escort him off the property and that Britney's lawyer worked with the sheriff's department to get him aggressively prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. NikkiSwift.com reports that in addition to being a nuisance, Jason was also a danger as he was spotted with a knife. Jason ended up being charged with trespassing and battery and was sentenced to 64 days. Britney's wedding did go forward that day despite Jason's attempts.
Kim Kardashian was with Kanye West for years before she realized what a horrible person he was. Now they were happy until things started to go south in 2020. In July 2020, Kanye acknowledged the possibility of Kim ending their marriage, and later that month he wrote on Twitter that he had been attempting to divorce Kim. He also wrote that the Kardashian family was attempting to lock him up. Now in January 2021, CNN reported that the couple were discussing divorce, and a month later, Kim filed for divorce, agreeing to joint custody of their children and declining spousal support from each other. Now the divorce settlement was finalized in November 2022, but after they divorced, Kim started to date Pete Davidson, which Kanye did not like, and he took a lot of digs at Pete and Kim. Kanye bullied Pete all over the internet and also came out with a song about how much he hated him. Now Kanye has also gone on many strange rants the last couple of years against Kim, where he once claimed that he was banned from his daughter Chicago's birthday party. He posted online about it saying, "You are lying and are liars. Y'all basically kidnapped Chicago on her birthday so she could remember her father not being there, so there. Also, I should see my children 100% of the time, but since there's a separation, it should have been 50% of the time. Y'all wouldn't have played with Donda like that in Jesus' name." Now, the Kardashians, for their part, have repeatedly denied Kanye's claims about Chicago's birthday, as after this rant, Khloe commented on Kanye's post begging him to please stop tearing Kimberly down, adding that her family has had enough of the false birthday narrative. Now, things have settled down as Kanye has remarried a woman who looks exactly like Kim, but hey, if that's what gets him to leave the real Kim alone, she's probably fine with that.
Sandra Bullock is beloved by most movie-going audiences, so when she got teary-eyed thanking her then-husband Jesse James at the 2010 Oscars, we all rooted for them. That also made it hurt twice as much when news broke that James allegedly cheated on her. He didn't just cheat though, he actually cheated with like a bunch of women. They were married from 2005 to 2012, and the marriage ended after James was accused of having these multiple affairs. Bullock met James while touring the set of his Discovery Channel show Monster Garage. She had taken her godson there because he was like a huge fan of the show. They married in 2005 and combined families to be one unit, and all was seemingly well. After Sandra won her Oscar in 2012 for her role in The Blind Side, several women came forward and claimed that James had had affairs with them. The couple then finalized their divorce in June 2012. In an interview, James had said, "Yeah, I did cheat on my wife. Yeah, I stood up and took accountability for it and apologized, and that's the end of the story." That comment rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because it came across like very bland and just disingenuous. James claimed that the paparazzi were part of the problem, whatever that means, and after his split from Bullock, James decided to make a permanent move to Austin, where he and Bullock had a home together. He said, "A lot of good happened out of the end of my marriage because it helped me focus on being a dad even more. It helped me focus on doing the right thing and being myself and getting out of LA and getting a better life for my kids." James remarried in 2013, however, that was another failed marriage. James has had a lot of controversy around him over the years, with many people calling him evil for some of the crazy ideologies, he's believed in. Many people believe that Sandra chose to ignore these red flags, and in turn, marrying him caused her to get some of that bad karma on her, which resulted in her never winning another Oscar again.
Tom Cruise. Now, Kate Holmes and Tom Cruise began dating in 2005, and Kate began studying Scientology shortly after. Now, in April of 2006, they welcomed their daughter Suri, and the couple got married 7 months later and would stay together for 6 years. Now, unfortunately, things ended badly in 2012. Despite staying pretty quiet during their divorce, yep, they were getting divorced, immediately people speculated that Tom's dedication to Scientology had a hand in it. When asked if Kate had requested a divorce in part to protect Suri from the group, Tom said, "There's no need to protect my daughter from my religion." But he did later admit that that was in fact one of the reasons. Now, it's since come out that Kate filed for divorce due to fear of Tom abducting their child into Scientology. Now, Kate was granted full custody while Tom was afforded visitation rights. Even though the custody agreement struck between makes it clear that he can see their daughter for 10 days a month, it seems like he hasn't been able to make that happen. Now, on top of that, a source close to the situation said that it seems to be a deliberate choice he is making. But honestly, the thing that exposed Tom the most is, again, the fact on his own he decided to choose Scientology over his daughter, and he's literally not spoken to her since the split. Now, apparently members are forbidden from associating with non-believers, so he cut ties, which is honestly just sad.
After hearing about a 55-hour marriage, it makes Kim Kardashian's 72-day marriage pale in comparison, but that doesn't mean the drama wasn't there. Kim K married Kris Humphries in 2011, only to file for divorce roughly 2.5 months later. Everyone wanted to know why the high-profile couple was suddenly splitting up, and the answer wasn't easy for anyone to admit, especially for Kim K. A famous clip from her family show Keeping Up with the Kardashians features Kim breaking down because she feels terrible for asking for a divorce after such a short time period, citing the fact that Kris changed his whole life around to make this marriage work, physically moving to be with her, and now it felt like it was for nothing. Humphries even went on record to say that he was 100% in that relationship and it was real to him. Kim filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. She also requested that neither side be granted spousal support. It was clear Humphries held ill will towards the whole situation at first, when he seemingly, in response to Kim's filing for divorce, filed his own annulment in which he cited fraud as the reason. He also claimed that he was devastated and that Kim K only wanted to marry him for TV ratings. The event was a big deal and got its own e-special called Kim's Fairy Tale Wedding that was about 4 hours long. Their divorce wasn't finalized until 2013 after Kris withdrew the fraud claim. Even though Kris was in the marriage until the end of the line, Kim later admitted in 2017 while speaking with Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live that she knew things weren't going to work out as soon as the honeymoon. Now Kim K's ex is pretty different than some other celebrity exes. He actually does leave her to her business while he carries out his. He said that he doesn't want to associate with this past bit of his life, and for the most part, he's been following that.
Now, Julia Roberts and Kiefer Sutherland first met on the set of the 1990 film Flatliners and began a short-lived romance. Both actors ended their previous relationships, and they were not dating for long when they got engaged. They had a wedding planned for June in 1991, but on their wedding day, neither Kiefer nor Julia was at the altar. People noticed Kiefer removing his stuff from his and Julia's Hollywood home, and meanwhile, Julia wasn't even in the country, but in Dublin with Kiefer's best friend. Yep, she ran away with his friend, Jason Patrick, on the day of their intended wedding. We were both young and we were both very much in love. We had decided that we wanted to get married, and then other things kinda took over, Kiefer said on the Jess Cagle interview. Now, this sounds like something straight out of a movie that Julia would star in, not her real life.
Movie star Pamela Anderson experienced a pandemic romance that she ended up regretting shortly after getting married. Anderson was in Vancouver when the pandemic started. Her home there was being worked on, and it ended up being the matchmaker, as Pamela's future husband, Dan Hayhurst, was one of the contractors on site. Thanks to the fact that everyone had to stay inside, the pair got to experience the beginnings of their relationship without people poking their nose into everything. The relationship was officially confirmed in September of 2020, but the pair had been together long before that. They eventually wed a few months later on Christmas Eve. It was clear from details about the ceremony and comments from the couple that they both wanted this to work out. A source claiming to be close to the star told People that Pamela goes into everything hoping for the best. She thinks every marriage will be her last. Everything down to the wedding bouquet showed that the actress was in it for the long haul. The different flowers and other plants featured all stood for different types of love. Plus, she married Hayhurst at the home she bought from her grandparents. That was also where her parents got married. So things seemed to be going well. What could have led to that 2022 split? Pamela Anderson sat down for an interview with the Sunday Times in 2023 and explained her position. Apparently, she just came to her senses one day. She said it literally just struck her. She realized that she had romanticized a lot of what happened. She said that everyone was looking good, all the contractors that were here. In her defense, she did go from literally jetting around the world, meeting thousands of people a day, to being stuck in one place with all the same people, and that would cause a shift in anyone's brain. The actress said that one day she just realized that this wasn't what she had wanted and that the marriage was a disaster. She was the one paying for everything, cooking and cleaning for everybody. She said that she just got caught up in this whole thing and began asking herself what she was doing, which that is a glaring sign that you're probably not where you're supposed to be. Thankfully, she was able to get out of the marriage and did so as fast as she could. Looking back during this interview, she acknowledged that she regrets the marriage and said it was stupid. But there were signs that things weren't perfect. Even though we were all trapped inside, the couple still gave some fans details about their home life. They did a joint interview for daily gossip show Loose Women. The interview was of course conducted over video chat, and the couple chose to answer the call from their bed, which can't fault them for that, honestly. During the interview, the couple were asked to talk about what they liked about the other person and why they were attracted to them. Anderson was describing Hayhurst as a good guy, remarked about how handy he was around the house, saying that he was the kind of guy she would have met if she didn't go around the world and get crazy. Hayhurst said that they just couldn't resist each other and then offered to show the camera under the covers if the viewers wanted. Now, given Pamela Anderson's history, given that her life was severely affected and made extremely difficult after the incident in which her tape was stolen and distributed without her permission, that comment, while clearly meant as a joke, was not a winner with fans, and people did not think it was appropriate.
Anne Hathaway and Raffaello Fileri are next. For 4 years, she dated a con man, unbeknownst to her, of course. Now, the former couple met through friends in the winter or spring of 2004. It was reported that Anne labeled it as like love at first sight. Fileri was 25 and Anne was just 22 at the time. The Italian businessman was reported to have defrauded around $50 million from renowned names like former US President Bill Clinton and billionaire Ronald Burkle. Now, he sought the investment for buying properties, which were mostly, churches from the Catholic Church. Now, he claimed he was or had connections with the Vatican to proceed with the fraudulent deal. And in June 2008, it was reported that the Italian con man also embezzled $1.3 million from business funds to finance the couple's luxurious lifestyle. He did an exclusive interview with the Daily Mail UK and said his past relationship to Anne was a fiery one, but with lots of instability as well. He also mentioned that he had gifted Anne several pieces of jewelry, including a very pretty emerald and pearly Cartier necklace and a topaz diamond cuff bracelet. He also stated that he remembers Anne's last words to him were, "I love you forever." And she said that to him at like 2 a.m. on June 24th, 2008, and he was arrested like 3 hours later. After that, they allegedly never spoke again. Anne did do an interview in 2008 with W Magazine, and she said, "As soon as I found out about the arrest, I had to get on a plane to Mexico to do a press tour for Get Smart. And then I spent the next week in shock." Anne faced, a lot of public scrutiny back in 2008 because many speculated that she had some sort of involvement in Fuller's felony. Lots of people believe she knew more than what she let on and that karma would get her for pretending that she didn't. Fuller served a 4.5-year sentence.
Emma Roberts and Evan Peters have actually broken up 3 times and been engaged twice, which is already pretty messy. Now, they called off their first engagement in 2014 before getting back together 2 years later. Now, this was of course after Emma was arrested. Back in July 2013, cameras caught the couple in the aftermath of a serious physical fight. The New York Daily News reported that on July 7th that year, Montreal police responded to a report of a domestic disturbance in a hotel room. Now, they discovered Evan with a bloody nose and bite mark and arrested Emma. Evan chose not to file charges against her. However, the Paps caught a dramatic scene as a distraught Emma hugged him as the news made headlines. Now, afterwards, the pair told Us Weekly in a statement, "It was an unfortunate incident and a misunderstanding. Miss Roberts was released after questioning, and the couple are working together to move past it." Now, the duo continued to date off and on until 2019. Evan was so in love with Emma and their relationship became very toxic, an insider told Us Weekly after their final split. They had the highest highs and then would not speak for days. Now, the couple never addressed any of these incidents, and they had a very complicated relationship and then, of course, eventually parted ways, which was probably the best for both of them.